They just about laughed us out of their office. You know, that is a direct quote from the year 2000 describing a fateful meeting that set the stage for what is, for sure, the greatest cautionary tale in modern business history.
Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking the story of a massive corporate giant. We're going to look at exactly how an invincible, multi-billion-dollar industry leader allowed a tiny, unprofitable startup to completely destroy it. It's really a masterclass in strategy, disruption, and human psychology.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the peak of a giant.
To really comprehend their fall, you have to appreciate their height. At its absolute peak back in 2004, Blockbuster operated over 9,000 physical stores worldwide. Think about that footprint for a second. That iconic blue and yellow ticket stub wasn't just a logo, it was an American cultural symbol. Friday nights at Blockbuster were a literal ritual. You know, browsing the aisles, debating movie choices, picking up some popcorn. They absolutely owned the weekend.
And the sheer financial scale of this giant? Staggering. They commanded a peak revenue of $6.1 billion in 2004. They employed 84,000 people globally, processing over 3 billion rentals. They were a logistical powerhouse, perfectly optimizing everything from store layouts to inventory turnover. To the outside world, they looked completely bulletproof.
Let's move on to Section 2, the $50 million joke.
So, the seeds of their destruction were actually planted 4 years prior to that peak. Picture the scene. It's September 2000 in Dallas, Texas. Two founders of a struggling, cash-strapped DVD-by-mail startup, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph of Netflix, fly in wearing t-shirts and flip-flops to ask this giant for a lifeline. They pitched a synergistic future. You know, Netflix runs the online business, Blockbuster handles the stores, but one of Blockbuster's advisors imperiously declared that the dot-com hysteria was completely overblown and that online businesses just weren't sustainable.
And here is the real punchline. Netflix wasn't asking for billions. They offered to sell themselves to Blockbuster for just $50 million. To put that into perspective, $50 million was roughly what Blockbuster spent just on late fee administration in a single quarter. But CEO John Antioco literally struggled not to laugh in their faces. So Blockbuster said no. The Netflix team took a long, very quiet flight back to California, realizing they had absolutely no choice but to go to war.
Which brings us to Section 3, the late fee trap.
So why did Blockbuster laugh? Well, it really comes down to a fundamental structural rot inside the company. The very thing making them rich was making them hated. Legend has it that the genesis of Netflix was driven by pure customer frustration. Reed Hastings misplaced a VHS tape of Apollo 13 for 6 weeks and got slapped with a $40 late fee. That friction beautifully illustrates exactly how a disruptor is born.
You can see the sheer dependency Blockbuster had on this friction. It's what we call the incumbents paradox. In 2000, late fees generated roughly $800 million. That was 16% of Blockbuster's total revenue. Think about that. Almost a fifth of their entire cash flow relied on a penalty that their own customers absolutely despised.
When we contrast the two business models side by side, it's pretty glaring. Netflix offered a flat monthly subscription, 0 late fees, and eventually paired it with a brilliant recommendation algorithm that just kept users hooked. They entirely eliminated the pain point. Meanwhile, Blockbuster was paralyzed. They couldn't match the Netflix model without instantly vaporizing their own $800 million cash machine. The very thing keeping their margins afloat was the anchor dragging them down.
Now for Section 4, fatal strategic mistakes.
To be fair, Blockbuster wasn't completely blind, but a series of internal betrayals and friction doomed their digital transition. Tracing this timeline of doom, we see that after squandering 4 crucial years, Blockbuster finally launched an online service in 2004. By 2006, their Total Access hybrid program was actually, believe it or not, terrifying Netflix executives. But then, Blockbuster franchisees revolted, furious over cannibalized store traffic. And while they were fighting internally, Netflix began quietly pivoting to its next massive innovation, online digital streaming. And then came the fatal blow. In 2007, activist investor Carl Icahn orchestrated a boardroom coup. He pushed out John Antioco, the CEO who was finally championing the digital shift, and replaced him with Jim Keyes. Keyes disastrously slashed digital funding to refocus entirely on the brick-and-mortar stores. As late as 2008, Keyes actually went on record saying, "I've been frankly confused by this fascination that everybody has with Netflix." Within 2 years of making that statement, Blockbuster would be completely bankrupt.
All right, Section 5, the fall of Blockbuster. Remember, disruption often looks like nothing at first, and then suddenly it looks like everything. The diverging trajectories here are wild.
From 2000 to 2006, Blockbuster's revenue stayed mostly flat, which gave them a false sense of security. But as changing customer behavior rapidly shifted towards streaming, Netflix surged. By 2010, the illusion totally shattered. Blockbuster's revenue fell off a cliff as they drowned in $1 billion of debt, while Netflix's user base exploded to 20 million subscribers. The human cost of this strategic failure is just an absolute gut punch. 84,000 employees at their peak dropped to virtually zero when they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in September 2010. It still remains one of the largest workforce destructions from a single company failure in retail history. And the irony of our modern reality is sharp. Today, out of those 9,000 global stores, exactly one Blockbuster remains in Bend, Oregon, and it mostly just serves as a nostalgia tourist attraction. Meanwhile, that little startup they laughed out of the room, Netflix generated an estimated $45 billion in 2025 revenue and commands a staggering $330 billion market cap, dominating global media.
Finally, Section 6, Lessons for Entrepreneurs.
So, what does this all mean for us? What are the actionable insights you can apply to your own ventures? First off, Blockbuster completely misidentified their industry. They thought they were in the video rental business instead of the home entertainment convenience business. Second, you have to protect vulnerable revenue. Your most profitable asset might actually be your biggest vulnerability. Third, fixed assets like 9,000 physical stores can rapidly become fixed liabilities. Fourth, half measures are often worse than no measures at all. And finally, even a correct strategy fails if your corporate governance only optimizes for next quarter's earnings at the expense of long-term transformation.
I want to leave you with this powerful, provocative thought to consider regarding your own industry. What happens when a giant optimizes for yesterday's profits instead of tomorrow's customers? Well, Blockbuster gave us the answer. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the assumptions in your own field.